Hi friends, welcome to my little corner on the interwebs. I'm getting attacked.
Chula.
Hey friends, welcome to my little corner on the interwebs. If you're new here, my name's Kathlina and I'm autistic with a heavy dash of ADHD. I make videos about autism and neurodiversity, so if that's something that you're interested in, be sure to be sure to click the subscribe button below. And to those of you who have already clicked it, I want to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have you here as a part of my pack. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my process between learning that I was autistic and now. It's been about 7 months and I've gone through all the feels, all kinds of things, lots of processing. And so I thought that it would be fun to do something a little bit more casual. I've got some wine. Feel free to pour yourself a glass or some tea or coffee or water or nothing and sit back and hang out with me. I will put out a little minor disclaimer that if you hear little tip taps or perhaps a barking dog or a cat decides to hop up here, I can't help it. I've got animals all over, so that is my life. So as many of you know, I was formally diagnosed as autistic back in early December. So I've been sitting with this official diagnosis for about 2 months, but I learned that I was on the spectrum back in late spring. So it's been about 8 months of me kind of processing and learning what this really means for me in my life. And during that process, I've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and I thought that it might be helpful for me to sit down and share kind of what that process has looked like for me. I'm gonna readjust myself here. Does anybody else like sit awkwardly in chairs? Because I definitely do. I don't know how people are able to sit still. Okay, so let's start at the beginning, when I first started to realize that I could potentially be on the spectrum. After I processed the initial shock of realizing that I was probably on the spectrum, the next thing that I felt was immense relief. I felt like a weight had been lifted off of my shoulders and I finally had permission to stop faking it. I wish that I could say that it was at that point that I fully stepped into my own truth and I was loving all of me, but unfortunately that was not how my process went. I had this immense relief and also I was really excited and kind of high off of this realization that I am actually different. My brain is actually wired differently, but I didn't actually understand or process the emotions that I was actually going through in that moment. I'm sure that a lot of people on the spectrum can relate to this. I personally have a really hard time being able to identify emotions that I'm feeling in that moment. It takes me usually quite a while to have to sit and think and process before I'm really able to identify how I actually feel about something. But I do just remember feeling such a sense of relief in those beginning weeks. That relief was then followed by crazy hyper-focus where I was reading everything that I could get my hands on. I was connecting with other individuals that were on the spectrum and just trying to gather up as much information as I can. I think partly to kind of prove to myself that I actually was autistic, because there definitely was still that voice in the back of my head saying that I wasn't. And that voice got louder when I then moved into the phase of telling people and sharing, you know, this news with a few of the people that were closest to me. And when I got responses that were less than welcoming or accepting, I started to question it even more. Wine break. Yum. I'm a red drinker. I'm curious to know if any of you guys are drinking wine out there with me, or even if you're not right now, if you do in general, what kind of wine you like. Let me know in the comments below. Another thing that came up during this time was anger. I was really mad that I got missed. I was really mad for my younger self. And like baby Kathlina, you know, like adolescent Kathlina. I was just feeling really bad for her, and I was feeling mad at my parents, I was feeling mad at my teachers, I was feeling mad at my doctors, because I felt like there were so many times that at least something could have been picked up, and it never was. I started to wonder who I might be if I was diagnosed earlier and, you know, received the help that I needed to succeed. And in thinking about that and processing that, I was mad. I was really mad, and that was one of the big things that I had to get over and accept that that wasn't my reality, and have gratitude that I at least know now. But yeah, processing the anger was definitely definitely a big part of this whole process for me. During this time of me, you know, thinking about who I might have been and processing anger, and also just kind of grappling with like all of it, because it's really a lot to take in. I also remember feeling sad for the person that I thought that I was going to be able to be. This is something that I haven't really seen very many people talk about who were diagnosed later in life. But for me, I kind of always held on to hope that like I would be able to do these certain things once I found that roadmap, once I found my thing to be able to, you know, like make me neurotypical or whatever. I thought that I'd be able to be the person that was in my head and the person that I really wanted to be. And so I always had hope that that was going to happen. And I will admit that as I entered my 30s and that wasn't happening, that hope was starting to dim, but it was still there a little bit. So accepting that I was autistic for me was also kind of accepting that that person would never be. And I should pause right here and let you guys know that this does have a happy ending, but this part of my process, I just want to be honest and upfront for anybody out there that is just starting this or just realizing that they might potentially be on the spectrum and aren't feeling super chipper about it, that's totally okay. Your process is your process, and this was my process. And it wasn't all roses and rainbows. You know, a lot of it was, and it does have a happy ending that is still being formed. But this part of it was really difficult for me and sad. And for me, during that time of struggle, I completely went into autistic burnout. And I've been in autistic burnout before without knowing what it was, but I will say that this was by far the longest burnout that I have ever experienced. And it led into, you know, a little bit of depression, not for very long, but yeah, I was in burnout for a solid, like, at least 6 months. And there were other things that led into that. I mean, 2020 was just a literal dumpster fire. So I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one who found themselves burnt out. So I went into autistic burnout and I hung out there for quite a while. While I was there, I was definitely still very consumed by learning about autism and how it presents in females. But I was just really tired. I was not even really capable of fully taking care of myself. And I, for the first time, just kind of put my hands up and surrendered and said that, like, that's okay. This is where I'm at. I need to be here for a little while. And I gave myself permission to be there. And I think that's a big part of, at least for me, in burnout. I, in the past, have always just fought it. And then it made it worse. And this time I succumbed, and I think it helped a lot. So during this time, I was being pushed by one of my friends to seek out a diagnosis. And I really appreciate that. I needed that encouragement. I needed those reminders, because there was definitely still, while I was heavily, like, I felt in my heart that this was my reality, I was not quite able yet to identify and share that I was autistic until I had the concrete diagnosis. I personally really needed that. I know that self-diagnosis is super accepted, but I knew that if I was going to share this with certain people in my family, that I needed the diagnosis. I pushed myself to find somebody who specialized in assessing adults, and I was able to get an appointment like it was very, you know, almost like grace of God, because he is normally booked up. Assessments take like many months, and the day that I called, there happened to be a cancellation, and he even said at the end of our evaluation that that was the quickest assessment he had ever done. It was still pretty time consuming. I think that it took in total, I want to say like 8 weeks. But I am really grateful that that worked out in my favor. And so I went through the assessment and I received my diagnosis, and it was incredibly validating. And I finally was able to give myself permission to identify with this amazing, beautiful community. And in that permission, the biggest shift that happened was that I was finally able to give myself the same compassion and kind dialogue that I would give to anybody else. And again, I wish that it didn't have to be that way, but that was really what I needed to be able to let go of so many things, and accept myself as I am, and accept the beauty and how special the way that I see the world is. And that has been amazing. It also helped me to create and maintain healthier boundaries. I feel significantly more comfortable asking for things that I need without feeling guilty, and really embrace and love the person that I have always been. This diagnosis has allowed my relationship, my friendships, my family members, it's really given them a better perspective and understanding of me, and kind of, you know, some things that were not able to be explained before now have explanations, and that has been really helpful as well. Another beautiful thing that has happened in this process is this channel and connecting with all of you. I really love all of the comments that I get. I appreciate all of them. I love being able to talk with like-minded individuals and connect in a way, you know, it's sometimes hard to be able to relate to people in, at least for me, in my day-to-day life, because there are not very many people, at least around me, that experience what I experience, and it can be kind of alienating. And so I'm just really grateful that I have had the courage to share some things that are a little bit uncomfortable, and have so many of you be able to relate and share your stories with me. So thank you for that. So that's it for this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below if there's any specific videos that you want to see in the future. Let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.